Okay, here on MetalTalk, we're at the luxurious Sanctum Hotel here in London's West End. Gives me great pleasure to be with Robert John Godfrey.
Hello.
Composer, writer, extraordinaire of the Enid. And on Friday, 1st of April, got a new album out, Dust.
Oh yes.
And I've just asked Joe the same question actually. How happy are you with the album?
As happy as can be expected. In other words, we've done our best.
Yeah?
We know we've done our best. We know that someone else could have probably done a better job, but we've got what we've got.
That's a very humble answer of you, and that's been like it's part of a trilogy: Journey's End, Invicta, and now Dust. And you are going just to let the fans know you will be continuing working with the Enid.
Oh yes, it's just that I've got to a stage in my life now where I don't need to be on the stage with them anymore, and you know it isn't an asset, and I've known that for a long time. And B, I've got better things to do than try and struggle touring around Europe, because you know I'm getting too long in the tooth to really put up with that very easily.
Is it the travelling or just
the
travelling
mainly? Yeah.
Because I've noticed, like in the last few years, you've been slowly building up to this. You've sort of been pushing yourself further and further back out of sight on the stage. So this has been a long-term plan of yours?
It's been a long-term plan. Look, I could have done one of two things. And I suppose it first started when I woke up from my long slumber of uncreative work. I met Jason Ducker, who later became our guitarist. And in him, I saw a possibility of being able to mentor somebody to be able to play the Enid's music, about which he knew nothing. He grew to love it. He wanted to try. He then went off to college, initially to do a BTEC in music because he had to do something. And then from that, he did so well in that he went to university and did one of these music courses. And that was very helpful to him as well. By 2007, he'd returned from uni and back to live with us in Northampton, in our extended family of people who are not related to each other. And work began on writing some music. And since that time, Jason and the others have all worked incredibly hard to make this band the transcendent band that it is. When I say transcendent, I'm not talking about religious imagery of transcendency. I'm talking about it's a band that transcends the genders. Sorry, not the genders, the genres. Genders. What a Freudian slip. It is anti-genre, and you know it's exactly made up of all of the kinds of people who would likely have musical differences, you know, and split up. I mean,
just a band from all generations.
Well, well, it's not just that. I mean, if you take our newest member, Zachary Bullock, now he is just entered his 20s. Very gifted, very sensitive, multi-instrumentalist. Didn't know what he wanted to do, didn't want to go to university where his friends went, all of that. He knocked on our door just to become a spare pair of hands, anything, you know, a bit of roadie, a bit of this. I discovered he's very musical, and so we gave him the job of a live sound engineer to do for a little while, taught him how to do that so he could learn the music. His background is Radiohead. It is maybe, well, I think, you know, Radiohead and that sort of thing. That's where he's coming from. Jason came from, I suppose, metal, sort of grunge, punk. That's what Jason was all into. Max, when I met him 20 odd years ago, it was The Fall, it was Wire, it was XTC, That's that situation. Dave Story, a jazz drummer with an interest in big band playing. So you begin to see the picture that we've been all these people. And I mean, in the very early days with Francis Licorice and Steve Stewart back in the 70s, Steve was all about Hendrix, Francis was all about folk music, you know, Fairport Convention, blah, 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 all of that. So we've always had this sort of multiplicity of interests. I'll tell you where my greatest inspiration came from before I formed the Enid. It was Procol Harum.
Oh, well, yeah.
A band
And they're still
that-
going strong themselves.
Oh, well, very much so. I mean, they have the kind of millstone of Whiter Shade of Pale, so it's the only thing they
Yeah,
ever
there's a
did.
lot more to them than that.
Tremendous lot more. But the beauty of this situation is that a very good, but probably very sort of rather ordinary R&B band from Southend advertised for someone with a Hammond organ, and they got Matthew Fisher. And out of that flowed this extraordinary trans-generic thing, which became this wonderful fusion between sort of the groove, if you like, of R&B, a bit soul-y, and a more churchy sort of classical music than perhaps I would do. But it worked. It was a tremendous thing, and I thought, right, the Enid, when we came to that. And we had a singer, of course,
Yeah.
who unfortunately killed himself before we could really get cracking. But I thought, yeah, this is the right kind of thing, you know, if you take what I can do and put that together with what all of these other things, which incidentally I didn't know much about. I had to sort of draw that experience and learn to love the music they loved as well. And so this is how it works. And having done that over 40 years, you know, I've learned a lot. For example, in the beginning, the very first shows that the Enid did, which took place in 1976, punk was in full swing. And you know, the great bands of the progressive movement, which produced things like Close to the Edge and the rest of it, they had largely become overblown and irrelevant. We had Keith Emerson prancing around with a £100,000 sort of organ, specially built for him by Yamaha, standing in an arena. Well, that was meaningless.
Also, the
actually,
Enid
to
were very
the
much punk yourselves.
Well, this is the point. Though our language wasn't that, our attitude to the establishment was like that. And we were able, really, because we tapped into that particular genre that has never gone away, which is the sort of Hawkwind, Lemmy thing. You know, that has always been there. And a number of young people at the early Enid gigs who had Motorhead t-shirts on, I mean, they were innumerable. And that is because though our musical language is utterly different from the metal of its day, the thing that was the same was it was the sex and the blood, it was the power and the passion. It was all about that. And I think that the band's future younger audience is likely to come from a younger generation who resonate with those kind of emotions. At the moment we've got the prog world is cluttered up with musos, which are really a kind of sort of genre of their own, where a band like Transatlantic, a lot of like-minded sort of super instrumentalists get together and fuck around, on stage, strutting around like they're superstars. There's no content there. None of them knows how to write a song. There's absolutely nothing going for it. I've gotten into trouble recently for saying something similar
Steve
about...
Wilson.
Well, exactly, because, look, it's comfort food. There is a big audience out there for that sort of thing. Fine, but it isn't progressive. It's got nothing to do with it at all. And, I want to send a very strong message to prog generally, the magazine, that they need to get out and about a bit and start discovering some of the really wonderful bands out there that I've come across that don't want to be associated with something they regard as a leper colony.
And can you name some of these bands that we should take an interest
Well,
in?
I think what about Snark Puppy? You know, I mean, just something like that. What about Mew? Have you come across them? They're called Mew,
No.
Danish band.
No.
Well, there's a lot of them out there. They're doing very innovative, very interesting things. And, you know, some of them are sort of young and sexy as well, which helps. You know, I mean, it isn't...
And how do you get to hear these bands yourselves? Do you come across them at festivals?
Because we get out there, I see them, they come into the studio, people talk about it. You know, we record in our studios, the regional bands. We got our ear to the ground, we know what's going on. And this is why, you know, as I said, the leper colony is, the prog genre is perceived as that. You know, music for train spotters and geography teachers. And it isn't that, it doesn't need to be that. And Jerry Ewing needs to stop propping up the bars in the green rooms and around the sort of, you know, the in crowd, and get out there and actually realise, you know, and try and cultivate some of this sort of more passionate side of where it's going. Otherwise, it will fizzle out. I mean, the readership, for example, of a magazine like Prog, I'm going on an awful lot about the Prog, is that they are mostly composed of people who want to hear endless stories about Rick Wakeman. In fact, you know, I happen to know, because I'm close enough to there to be told this, that, you know, they tried putting Steve Wilson on the front of their magazine and their readership went down the spout. You know, they couldn't sell it. So they've got the same problem that the Enid have got, which is, you know, having a fan base that is increasingly dying out. And they've got to do something about it. And filling it up with musos is not the answer.
And sort of the Enid's fan base, is it dying out? Because it's growing into a brand new baby now, really.
Most of the people who said, "Oh, I liked it in the old days," you know, when they've gone, right? There is now a new, but still older generation. I mean, a lot of our new fans are people who said, "I've been going to rock concerts for 40 years and I never knew you existed. You know, you're wonderful. Why have I never found out about it?" So we've got quite a lot of new fans like that. What we cannot get really stuck into is the younger generation. And that will never be a very easy to do with me having a sort of being in band pictures and being like that. You know, I can do more of a sort of George Martin-y Gandalf-y thing. You know, I mean, I can, in other words, I can urge them on and clap from the sidelines. But I think that the new generation, if we're going to find that, then as I said, we've got to find it from elsewhere.
And what confidence have you got in a new band? Well, I say it's a new band, but all the band members, because the Enid is a band now.
The Enid is a band, yeah. It's led by Joe Payne, creatively. He will take this wherever he wants to take it. I think it's up to them. You know, I've got to where I've got to with it. This is not entirely a vanity project, because as I was saying, which I never got quite round to, all these, I was talking about Jason, but in fact, the real point I'm making is that I've now had 5 or 6 years of absolutely dedicated hard work, 24/7, no day jobs. This is what we do to get this band to where it is. They don't need me. They need to be able to prove, while I'm still living, that they can go out there and do it. Because otherwise, how selfish would that have been if I'd clown, you know, to the bitter end, and then just said, well, sorry folks, you know, I am the Enid, and when I go, that's the end of the Enid. That's not fair. They need a chance to be able to take this where they want to. I don't know where they're going to take it. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that they have now a real wonderful platform to go on from. Joe Payne is a particularly gifted young man. And the beauty of his situation, though he doesn't perhaps realise that, is his insecurity and his vulnerability. That is actually the thing that is so beautiful about him. If he's an arrogant cunt, you know, just strutting around saying, aren't I beautiful and blah, 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 no one will take any notice of that. Sorry, I've said words I can't say there, you know. But he's not like that. He's quite the opposite. He is meticulous. You know, we get to a gig. You know, he doesn't drink, you know, a couple of days before. He gets in his dressing room and he starts warming up. And he does 2 hours of vocal exercises before every show.
Describe the moment when you first heard his voice.
Well, when I first heard it, I thought it had potential, but not much else. He was a pub singer. He was part of our little choir, which we had following us, going around with us, together with a small brass orchestra, which we did during Journey's End, one of the decibels, as they were called. And 2 things happened. He and Max fell in love with each other, which was an extraordinary thing. I mean, I weren't expecting anything like that. But the other thing was that he wanted to come and work with us. He said, look, you know, I don't like my university course. He was doing business management. So I said, well, you know, why don't you come and try and sort of be helpful running a record label and doing all that. And I thought, you know, well, we'll just see how this goes. And then he was doing shows with his pub band and the rest of it. So we used to go and watch it. And I realised that what he had, which was nothing to do with his vocal quality, that's all come later, right, was that he had charisma. Tony Stratton-Smith's favourite word, charisma. And he had this in spades, and he doesn't know that he's got it, right, which is the beautiful thing about it. And he stood up in front, you know, and he was like a star from the word go. And so, and I realised that, and so we encouraged him, and he came on and did a bit of bits and pieces with the Enid, and our fans sort of went absolutely wild and wrote us rude letters and said, how dare you, you know, introduce somebody that sounds like they've just failed on X Factor. It's coming on. And it was a bit like that, because that's the sort of thing he was into, you know. And so gradually, we did that, and I said, well, look, let's take this seriously and try and do it. And he then showed me some tune ideas that he'd written, and I then helped, we together made those into the songs that appeared on Invicta. And you know, he can't listen to Invicta now because he thinks, well, you know, I was so shit then compared to how he's moved on now. I mean, having done the Bridge album with him, which was designed to push him to the absolute limits of the sort of thing, you know, that his voice would go. That's been very helpful. He's had vocal training, he's been to an opera singer, he's been to a different sort of singer trainer, you know, he's done several things, and you know, he's continually improving himself and developing himself, and so it will go on. I mean, it never ends for a boy like that, and I'm quite sure that he's got a wonderful career in front of him, whatever that may be.
And also, there will come a strange point where you'll be sitting in the audience watching the Enid.
Oh, I'm going to be doing that, actually, at the weekend.
On stage for his gig at the Cadogan Hall.
Well, just for something like that, there's going to be a symbolic act at the end.
Oh, fantastic. Don't give too much away, you know.
It's too late for you to do anything about it. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter.
And what hopes for the future of the Enid? What would you like to see with the Enid go?
Well, I'm always one of those people, I've never... Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. In fact, I've got to have a chest x-ray, which is another slightly worrying feature of life as you get to my age. Sorry, what did you ask me?
What would you like, right, say the Enid, you give them a free range of music direction they want to go. If you could sort of give them sort of directions in which way you want to go.
No.
If I say they come out for a completely commercial pop album, will
Well,
that offend you?
then that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
You know, why not? Sorry, I've got a very bad...
Take a sip of coffee. Edit it out.
Sorry about that. No, I mean, I have no... 2 years ago, I separated myself from absolutely all of the legal and administrative responsibilities with the band. I own no shares in any of its companies. I own none of the intellectual property, and I do not own the name.
Oh wow!
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I've handed that over, and I did that some time ago, because that they'd never have believed me if I hadn't done that. And it's now come to the point where I've wanted to take this step longer ago than they've wanted me to take it.
Fantastic. And did you have any unfulfilled ambitions yourself?
Well, of course, maybe. But look, I've lived the life that I wanted to live. And more importantly, I've lived the life that suited me best. All right? That is the way I have to look at it. Yes, I could have done other things, and if I had my life over again, I'd have probably done much of it differently. But so what, you know?
Yeah.
Who's to say that I won't have that anyway?
What was the proudest moment of your
The
time in
Rainbow
the
Theatre,
Rainbow Theatre, yeah?
1976.
Yeah.
A promoter booked us in there on a thing like that, paid us nothing, he said, well, if I get 100 people in, I'd cover my costs. There was 1,000 people in there. Absolutely, one wouldn't let us leave the stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's like your first shag. Yeah. There's nothing quite like it.
Fair enough, because one of my fondest memories of the Enid over the years, 1987, Reading Festival. I knew the name Enid, but I didn't know the music. I'm just walking around getting some food, and I just hear this big majestic wall of noise, and I thought, this is wonderful. And what does Reading Festival mean to you?
Well, we did it 5 times.
Yeah, exactly,
that was, well, of course, it was the sort of the gay mafia of its day, wasn't it? The Marquee Club.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and Jack Barry and Tony Stratton Smith and sort of those, they were lovely, really. I mean, they were naughty. Imagine for one moment that I didn't realise they were. But, you know, we were well liked by that organisation.
Yeah.
And we did well for the Marquee Club when it was in Walnut Street.
And you've still got new musical horizons in the live theatre coming up, like you're going to Japan for the first time soon.
Yeah, so I'm going for the first time. I've got to do those shows there. Those will actually be my last ones as permanent touring thing. But then I've got my 70th birthday concert, which they're planning for next year.
Yeah.
So I should be part of that.
Good, look forward to that.
I should probably make appearances at the private fan club dues, which we have 2 a year. We've got the Summer Fete, and then we have the Christmas party. And, you know, we get several hundred people to those. They all sit down and eat food that the band have cooked for them. You know, it's that sort of, it's really quite a unique relationship we have with our fans. And my biggest job now, apart from the compositional things that I want to do, is to take the fan club by the scruff of the neck and build the Enid, which is like the Iceni, the tribe of Enid, that's what it actually means, Enid, into something more universal. I have a word for it, but it's, in other words, that I'm going to try and get the Enid fans to help me launch a new movement with the Enid at the spearhead of it, which is a trans-generic way of doing music. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a genre in itself, transcendent rock.
Can you elaborate more on that? Will fans take part in the music?
Well, the fans won't take part in the music, but they will help fund the Pangeneria movement, which is what I'm calling it, which will enable us to go and tour with 2 or 3 other exciting bands and travel around with a completely self-contained kind of mini festivals of the bands I approve of, and until I die, the only ones that will be allowed in there are the ones I say that can be. And fair enough, you know.
I like it. I like the idea. It's fantastic.
You know, you can't do things by committee. So yeah, that's what I want to do, because I want to get I want to try and, I mean, I'm going to try and never use the word progressive again because of its connotations.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to get Jerry Ewing on board and all of that, but I'm not going to brown nose him. You know, it's going to be the other way around if it's going to be anything. I'm just not having it. I don't believe that the prog magazine has really thought about its future. Maybe Team Rock will just think, well, you know, it was only ever really meant to be a kind of nostalgia trip, you know, for those bands of the past and some of the imitators, right? And now it's pretty irrelevant. They might just knock it on the head and start something new called Pangeneria. Who knows? I don't know. But what I'm saying is that we need a shake-up now. There's a young generation out there that can be completely enthralled by a new musical development. Everyone's completely fed up with the comfort food we're all forced to bloody eat, and we've got used to it. You know, it's I know what I like and I like what I know. You know, and
I feel like saying we need a new punk.
It's exactly what we need, right? Exactly.
Whatever that will sound,
whatever it does, it doesn't matter. But you know, there are so many people excluded from the creative side of producing new music. If it doesn't fit the pigeonhole, you know, forget about it. And then so you've got numerous people who are just messing around on the internet. And the other thing is there's such a plethora of bands, most of which, even if they're quite good or even very good, they are hobbyists. They are amateurs because they've all got day jobs and they're not really participating in a life of music. They're doing it as a pleasure, like the Victorians did with the piano in every parlour, you know, and it's that scenario, and it's cluttering up everything, and we need to, you know, need to sort that out. Unfortunately, music is not like acting, where you have to have an equity card, you know, and amateurmatics are very, however good they are amateur. You know, the music thing has just become a pollutant. Music's on everywhere. You can hardly get away from music. And music is used, it's a fashion accessory, frankly. A point came probably sort of round about the same time as the Sony Walkman became the absolute thing, where music was simply sold like clothes are, as a fashion accessory. And that's where we are now. We need to stop that and try and marry up again with the arts, because it's actually the arts that push things forward, and that boundary which exists in film, in writing, in fashion, and of course in music, is that area where the entertainment world and the vocational artists meet. And it should be judged on merit. You know, really it was a meritocracy. If you were good, and the journalists who knew their stuff and the critics said, this is a really good band, you know, and giving good reasons for it, then it would get coverage. If it was rubbish, then it wouldn't. Now it doesn't work like that.
Everything gets coverage.
Yes. Right.
And before I do sign off, what message have you got for your fans? Because some of them have been with you for a long time.
Thinking more particularly about those ones that have been with me for a long time, I shall say that we shall walk hand in hand into the shadows together.
That's a lovely word. Lovely ending. Robert, it's been wonderful talking to you. Wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you so much.
The album Dust is out on Friday the 1st, and
it is,
enjoy Japan, young man. You'll love it out there. Okay?
Sorry for the bad language.
No, that's what we like. All the best for the future,
and the
Robert.
coughing.
Thank you very much.